Okay. Let's give people, I usually give people about a minute or so, do some vocal practices before we kick off with some How Now Brown Cow, Unique New York.
Right. The unicyclist wore short pants.
That's a good, see, I knew you would have one. The unicyclist wore short pants. That's a tough sentence right there. It's way harder than the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. So, the unicyclist wore short pants.
Short pants.
All about the enunciation there. Give me another.
I think that's also from Anchorman.
Oh yeah, that's where I get all mine from. The Human Torch acquired a bank loan today.
I love Scotch.
Scotch.
Hey, you're on the air now. I don't believe you.
My friend Baxter here. Oh man, good stuff. All right, I'm waiting for Twitch. Twitch is not cooperating.
What's Joey's last name?
Williams.
Yeah, Detroit's goalie and team president.
Yeah, the Jackie Moon of Detroit, as we like to call him.
We played together for Philly.
Yeah, exactly. So he's in law school, so that's where he's been kind of preoccupied a little bit. But hey, we'll get him back on the show eventually. So, all right, Twitch doesn't want to cooperate, so let's get rolling. Welcome back, shooters, for a fantastic Sunday evening edition of Shootin' Straight, a handball podcast with JD and just JD, usually Joey. But we are joined this evening by, I won't call him the doctor, but just Bob Healy III. Bob, how are we doing? Is that the proper title? What you go? I know we had some beef already on Twitter about the doctor side.
Yeah, no, I have to. If you give me the PhD, I have to then defend how people that I work with, my work colleagues, saying you don't have a PhD. Don't let them call you that. I had Dr. Bob Healy on my on the placard outside my office when I first started there, and immediately I started getting some crap for it. So no, I have a master's of science in multimedia technology, and I am a faculty member full time in year number 7 now at Duquesne University. But I am not technically a doctor. I'm not a scholar. So I have the very wonderful combination of being able to be a full-time faculty member, but still do a ton of side projects that is not academic research. And I like this setup.
Okay. All right. Good to know. I'll have to change your name in my phone because it's Dr. Bob in my phone. So that's an absolute
that's cool. I get it all the time.
Cool. How have you been doing this weekend? Anything exciting you want to tell our listeners about?
Well, yeah. I mean, the Steelers are 6-0. What's not to like?
Pittsburgh. Maybe you can explain to us a little bit more about the Yinzer. I'm not sure Andrew knew much about Yinzers. You're more of a historian, I think, than he is. But that came up.
Well, yeah, that's a southwestern Pennsylvania dialect that Yins is short for you ones, which is a way of saying y'all, and it's unique to Western Pennsylvania, Southwestern Pennsylvania. It doesn't really have there's no equivalent anywhere else in the country other than, like I said, y'all and yous guys, but no one says yins other than people in this particular region, because Pittsburgh it exists not quite Northeast. It's not like an East Coast or Northeastern city, and it's not quite a Midwestern city, like Columbus sort of, starts in Cincinnati and Cleveland. It kind of starts the Midwest. Pittsburgh, it's between the two. It's like it's the Paris of Appalachia. So in Pittsburgh, we have a specific dialect that just seemed to develop here because it's its own little world. It's a span between two different regions. Yins is like the most frequently cited one that is brought up about the dialect, but there's tons of them. But gum band and pop and
gum band,
yins and slippy. Have you heard of a gum band?
No.
It's a rubber band.
Oh, okay. All right. A gum band. All right. I'll take that to work on.
Do you know what it means to red up?
To ring up? No.
Have you heard that? Do you know what it means to red up? That just means to get your room in order. Red up, pick some things up off the ground.
All right. I got to red up my house.
There's a ton of yeah.
Goodness gracious. I need a full dictionary of all these Yinzer terms then. Or I guess Southwestern PA, and to be specific. Well, that's some fun fact right there for all our listeners tuning in here this evening. But the Steelers coming in hot. I know that I picked up was it Chase Claypool, the big wide receiver that everybody's going crazy with. I got him on fantasy, and he really disappointed me today. So it's a little let down by that.
Oh, yeah. So you're the guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that one's on you. Well, you get a bunch of big weeks in a row,
Yeah,
and now
bound to happen.
all the coverage goes your way.
Yeah, so it's good for the AFC North. Here in Ohio, obviously watching the Browns succeed for once in people's lifetime is absolutely incredible. So having the Ravens, Steelers, and Browns all hunting for playoff spots is going to be interesting in a few weeks.
Yeah, it's great. We had and the best part is every time the Browns start feeling good about themselves, they come to Pittsburgh and
then
like the Steelers just hold their head in the toilet for 3 hours.
Oh my gosh, that was rough.
I feel so bad. I feel bad for the Browns fans, but it only so much.
Yeah, I'm a Bills fan, but I also have been born and raised here in Ohio, so I'm impartial to being a Browns fan because I like Cleveland a lot more than I like Cincinnati, and it's just hard to watch when there's going into last week specifically. I was excited for the Browns. I was like, this is going to be their game. This is going to be keep it close against Pittsburgh for like the first time, and what is it? They haven't won in Pittsburgh in 16 years, I think or something. It's insane. It's an insane stat.
Right.
But yeah, just got absolutely trashed. So it's big brother, little brother syndrome.
Yeah,
but,
no, the Steelers have had that going on with the Patriots for a little bit. The only thing with that's nice about being a Steeler fan is like even though the Patriots have pretty much owned us for like a decade, is the Steelers have been able to win some Super Bowls in the midst of the Patriots run. So I mean, you really can't. It's not quite as bad. It's like kind of like in Pittsburgh, with the Washington Capitals, because it's a big hockey city too.
Mm-hmm.
The Capitals could catch the Penguins forever, and then when the Capitals finally did beat the Penguins in the playoffs, then they won the Stanley Cup. It was like a hurdle they had to get over. The Steelers just have not been able to beat the Patriots in the playoffs, and it seems like the years that we are the second or third best team in the league, we have to face the Patriots in the playoffs, and we can't get past them, and the Patriots go win the Super Bowl. But Tom Brady left the conference, which is nice. That's something else we don't have to deal with now. Yeah. So we're happy as hell to be 6-0.
Good.
It's nice to just to be able to watch sports still on TV at least.
Yeah. And speaking of football, you played offensive line at Duquesne back in the day. You want to touch upon that a little bit? What it was like being a college athlete and D1 right? Isn't Duquesne D1 or were they D2 at football?
Yeah. No, it's an FCS school for football, but it's a Division I school.
All right.
Duquesne is, it's my alma mater where I teach. So I'm very fortunate to be able to teach in my alma mater. It is, and in fact, because it's my alma mater is how I was able to make the connection, honestly, to get back there. So I'll try not to make this too long-winded, but when I was in graduate school at Duquesne, I was in the journalism department for grad school, and I was one of the first students to enter the grad program for journalism. It was new for being its own department. The year that I started grad school. And so one of my faculty members, I became his teaching assistant, his TA. And then following my master's degree, I went into sports information, which is, for those of you who've heard the term SID, when you hear about there's somebody who's the main media contact at a college or university's athletics department. He's the sports information director, or she is the sports information director. And so I became a sports information director after grad school for 3 years, first as an intern at a small school in upstate New York called Hamilton College. And then after that year, combined with my education and just like innate writing skills and knowledge of sports, I was able to get my own office and run an athletics communications office at another Division III school, another small school in Eastern PA called Susquehanna University. And so I did that for 2 years as the head SID. And I moved back to Pittsburgh to start a family, and my wife and I got married and settled in Pittsburgh, back where we're from. And I became a news reporter for 3 years and primarily covered schools and crime and arts and number. Most sports was actually the thing I wrote about the least, but I still wrote more sports than anybody else in our region because I was a sports expert. And so one of the guys who was a big reader of mine, because he lived in my coverage area more or less, was this guy whom I was a teaching assistant for. And so when AOL, which had merged with the Huffington Post media group to own our patch websites, is what they were called, laid everybody in Pittsburgh off at once, I was left without a job for the first time since, being a grad student. And even before that, because I was a TA. So it was a little scary time. And I started just doing whatever I could to make some money. I was umpiring Little League. I was driving an Uber. I was digging holes for French drains. I was, going to fields and resodding them after they were fracked, which is a big business, fracking in, north central / northwest Pennsylvania. So I was doing some work like that, and it was terrible, like backbreaking labor. I did that for like 4 or 5 months, some long days. And then finally the guy, like I said, whom I was a TA for, saw an opening in the fall of 14. I was laid off in October of 13. So in like June of 14, he called me and said, we have an opening to teach journalism for a year. Will you do it? And I said, Mike, it beats digging ditches. It's the same. Literally, that's what I'm doing right now. So yeah, of course I'll do that. And then 1 year turned into 2 and turned into 3, because somebody either, didn't get tenure and had to leave, or somebody retired, or somebody moved on into the industry as opposed to being an academic. And so they kept needing me. And so now it's 7 years later, and now like I'm there. That's my full-time job. It's my career. No end in sight. And I started my own program called Sports Information and Media. That's the major. So you can major at Duquesne University in Pittsburgh in Sports Information and Media, and you can learn from a former SID and a former sports reporter and sportscaster like myself. And that's what I do now. And so I was being a student athlete at Duquesne was a big reason why I now teach, current student athletes and others who aren't, who are just into sports, who want to stay in this industry without being a pro athlete. I mean, you can be a professional in sports without being a professional athlete. But when I was a student athlete there, I played football for 4 years. I was a 2-year starter. And my junior year, we were the Division I AA, which is what it was called then. Now it's called FCS, or Football Championship Subdivision. We were the I AA mid-major national champions. I got the ring back behind me in one of the trophy cases. And then my senior year, I was all conference that year. My senior year, I was first team all conference. And then I lost about 60 pounds in 60 pounds in a couple of months after I was done playing football to focus on track and field full time for a year, which was my other sport. And I did track and field a full indoor season finally, and an outdoor season at a weight that I enjoyed better, that I thought I could get quicker at and still maintain my power. So I went from 310 pounds as a guard to 255, 260 pounds in my last year of throwing. And I set the school shot. Was the Atlantic 10 champion in the discus throw, and I was the runner-up in the shot put, and I was the bronze medalist in the hammer throw. And I'm still the only thrower, male or female, to medal in all 3 events at the same conference championship. Like I said, so that was, I have a couple records. It's pretty cool. It's nice. I mean, people who say they don't keep track of that kind of stuff are lying. I mean, I have, for example, one of my claims to fame is at Duquesne is that there's a guy who played in the NFL. You might remember his name because he's a Cleveland Brown. His name is Lee Bodden. Lee Bodden was a defensive back in the NFL for a long time. He went Detroit, Cleveland, New England. Think of the teams. Well, Lee was a college teammate of mine at Duquesne. He's one of the most notable former players we've had. And Lee was the Atlantic 10's long jump champion my freshman year for track. And then he was obviously first team all. He was an All-American for us in football. So Lee was first team all conference in football and track. He's the first guy in school history to be first team all conference in 2 sports. That unless you count like cross country and track. And then I became the second. And so my claim to fame is like, Lee Bodden is one who had like a 13-year NFL career, and I'm the other one. And that's really neat. I like that.
That's super
Thank
cool.
God Lee did what he did. It wouldn't be as cool if Lee didn't have a 13-year NFL career. But yeah, that's my college sports history. And I've stayed active obviously ever since, because I just, like a lot like yourself, I love sports. I know you play a whole bunch of different games, and I'm the same way. And handball is just one of the latest.
Yeah. and that's something that you're really big into. I know boxing and softball, baseball, and umpiring, and I guess I don't know that I actually know how you've ended up finding Andrew and the Pittsburgh team in the first place. I'm not sure if I remember that story.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Andrew Burke, who was on your show, um, despite all these problems he had with Zoom and the technology,
Yeah.
Andrew, yeah, I think Andrew and Joey were talking about Joey Williams, your co-host. He was talking about the way they recruit athletes, and it was simple. Andrew sponsored an ad on Facebook that boosted a post that the Pittsburgh Team Handball Club, which was a page he created, had posted looking for people to come try a new sport. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, yeah, great. I mean, I think when I started with Andrew, I was 34, 35 years old. Now I'm 37. I was looking to stay active and competitive. I still felt like I had some physical tools that I could use to make a difference for a team. And I was at that point semi-retired from baseball. I was played semi-pro baseball from the time I was 25 until just this past year when I blew out my biceps tendon swinging a bat.
Oh boy.
So that was for me like the greatest thing that to really force me to keep in shape and to keep competitive was to find the handball. I didn't know anything more than about the sport than just what I'd seen on TV during the Olympics, like so many Americans, right? So Andrew showed me the basic rules, and then luckily he had some guys on his team who knew the game better than we did. Honestly, they weren't native to the country. They came from other countries and knew the sport better, and they taught us. And then I got to play at nationals with Joey and yourself for a year, and a couple other tournaments that you put on.
Yep.
And it's just been awesome. I miss it. I wish we could get more games and more practices because of this virus. But this has been, despite I had done boxing. I was on the U.S. bobsled team for a week. I was like baseball, semi-pro, football, Division I, track Division I. All these different sports. And the most played tennis, played soccer till 10th grade. Like, I mean, all these different sports. Handball's been the most, other than trying to hit a curveball, handball's been the most physically challenging sport. I mean, I'm amazed at how physical it was. I knew a little bit just based on practice, like how you can wrap guys up and, you can push a little bit until I got to play at the Arnold Classic and saw my arms all ripped up and bruised. Looked like I was in football camp.
I remember you the first that first day because I think that might have been the first time I met you, and that next day, I think the Sunday of the tournament, or maybe it was like later Saturday night, you had like ice bags like taped all over your whole body, and I was like, you could see the bruising right away, and I was like, Bob's a pretty athletic, strong guy. Like he I mean, it's one of those things that you see a bigger guy, you're gonna have to hit him harder, so you might have got, people might have been hitting you a little bit more because you're a little bigger than everybody else, but at the same time, that's good testament for all the other folks out there who think they can just step onto the court and match the physicality right away. But coming from a boxing and Division I football background, you understand, contact.
Yeah, like I said, it was the most sore upper body wise, and the most like when you play football, especially offensive line, defensive line, and you're using your hands to pull and grab each other out of the way. It's like my arms typically throughout the course of a football season, like I said, in camp when you're practicing 2-3 times a day, like you get bruises and pinch marks all over your upper body, and the grabbing that went on whenever I would get the ball, my move, it would just kind of like get the ball, and then whatever it takes to get it in the goal, I'll throw lefty, righty, roll it, bowl it, whatever I have to do to get it in the goal. So I would just get it and try to bulldoze my way in, and guys were trying to grab onto me. So as I'm going through, they're like, their arms are peeling off my body. And then when I'm on defense and I'm trying to,
I think we lost Bob.
And so, when you saw me with the ice over my legs, my calves had tensed up by the end of the tournament. I was taking ice baths at the hotel. It felt really great to people who are athletes know that feeling where like you feel like you put yourself through something and it came through it. But that's been the most physically challenging sport, that I've tried. I mean, I've run heavyweight cross country, like where they have like a Clydesdale 225 pound plus category. And I've placed it though. I try everything. Handball has been like in terms of like the ability you need to jump and pivot and be athletic, but then have to run that much. Like I'm so impressed by the athletes who played at the highest level. Just the little bit that I've been able to do with you guys and with Pittsburgh's club with Andrew. So yeah, I think anybody who thinks that this is a gym class sport, you can just pick up. I mean, take my word for it. You're gonna feel it because there's guys as big as me or bigger, hitting you. It's really, really physical. It's like a trenches battle when you're especially like down in like I usually am.
Right, and you playing pivot, you understand the getting tossed around there a little bit, and even backcourt players when you come slashing through, if you don't hit that cut and hit the hole perfectly, somebody's gonna shut you down pretty quick. So that's good. It's good that you bring that up because I know we got a lot of listeners that get frustrated sometimes when they hear folks saying they can walk right onto the court and dominate, and I think, to an extent, like if you have a good understanding of sport and you have a pretty decent sports background, you're pretty athletic at an American level.
I think I lost you. Last I heard was to an extent.
Yeah. He might be losing you again. I apologize to everyone for my technical difficulties.
I'm going to send you a chat because I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, Bob? Probably not. I can hear Bob. All right, we're back.
Hey, I got you back. Last I heard was when you said to an extent, like people who could say they can walk right on from basketball or something.
Yep. So the bigger issue is that we get a lot of people like that, and I think I've seen plenty of cases where someone like yourself, and as you probably saw with the Pittsburgh team, like you walk into that gym and sure, you might not know handball, but you're probably one of the better athletes, if not the best athlete in that gym. It just takes some time for you to kind of learn the nuances of handball. But I think people don't realize that physicality factor is where it's really not the same as what they're used to. So it's a good thing you brought that up. I wanted to ask a question about.
I remember we played.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say when we played you guys, when Pittsburgh played Ohio State in Pittsburgh.
Back in
it was on the campus of Robert Morris. Yeah, that was we played like on really cool. We played in that like outdoor ice rink that was melted. We played like in a roller hockey rink and we got a game going. The physicality aspect too. Like within the first 5 to 7 minutes of the game, I got the ball with a head of steam, and I could make one move, and I was scoring like at will. I was scoring a bunch early, and then you made an adjustment as a coach on our team that just totally killed us because we didn't have the knowledge. Mm-hmm. And you immediately pushed us back away from the 8-meter line. It was just, and it was like game over. And so we had some good athletes, and if we could man up a little bit more, we could, but the fast break goals you guys started to get, like once you took me out of the game and you took any of our athletes out of the game and pushed us back away from the goal, we had no answer for it. And that's where I wish we had better coaching. Like if we had someone like yourself who studies the game better, it would make a huge difference for us. But the physicality, it only takes you so far too. Right. It's such a unique sport that if you don't study it, it's like any other sport. Like if someone were to say, "Oh, I play basketball, I'm used to the movement and passing." Yeah, like that's true to an extent. But like after the first 5-6 minutes, you start scoring, the other team's going to make an adjustment, and then what are you going to do?
Right.
They can just take you out of the game. That's the thing was so cool to me to watch. As much as we hated getting blown out in the second part of that contest, it was like, yeah, we could tell we're just kind of screwed. We don't have the knowledge yet for this sport to figure out a way around that, and you guys did.
So that's kind of a good little segue to what I was going to ask, is that with Pittsburgh, like in a growth situation, Andrew obviously is not a handball expert, neither are yourself, but I consider the two of you to be kind of the leaders of the club out there. What do you guys have a plan in regards to finding someone who's got that experience that might be able to step in and serve as a coach or an advisor to the club for those like in-game situations and different scenarios and different tactics and techniques and things like that? Because Pittsburgh's a perfect, town for, I think a lot of these Midwestern cities are kind of primed for handball because a lot of football background, a lot of baseball background, basketball in the winter, wrestling. There's a lot of high contact sports. They like the physicality of it. I think when I see handball, it's more of a blue collar kind of guy game, and there's no more of a blue collar city than Pittsburgh or Cleveland. So, not to mention the number of universities in the Pittsburgh region. Between Duquesne, Robert Morris, Carnegie Mellon, Pittsburgh State, Gannon's not too far. You got Youngstown State just across the border. West Virginia's just to the south. I just listed off 6 or 7 colleges. So if we could get some kind of development program working in that region, do you think that could help kind of spur that knowledge base, or what do you think's needed to help make that happen?
I agree with everything you said, and I noticed all the same things you've noticed too about the opportunities here. The You and I have been on phone calls with USA Handball in the past year, and of ways to kind of grow the game at this local club level. And my opinion is that the only way we're going to do it is to have an umbrella organization like USA Team Handball. Honestly, hold people like Andrew and I by the hand and show us exactly what to do, and then check in on us and make sure that we're doing it. Like, for example, if Andrew or I, if we're left to our own devices when it comes to like how to coach during practice, because we have practices that's almost devolved throughout them into just scrimmages of crappy handball after a while, because
you run out of drills.
The problem that we have is exactly, if we were told like, these are the things that you need to do today, these are the videos, and then we could just do those drills and just boom, 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 we would be so much better off. When I went to nationals and noticed how, the New York and those teams and Cal Heat and those guys, what they did as a pregame warm up and then as drills, like, and then, strategy sessions, we need to do that at our level too, even if we don't have the caliber of players that they have or the experience that they have, because that's the only way we're going to get it. So I would like to see USA Team Handball have like regional directors say, okay, these are my 5 teams in my region that I know exist as established clubs, and I'm going to almost be like their regional coach. And so like the head coaches would report to me, like, well, you're working on this or you're working on this. And then the regional coach would almost like put together like practice 1 for this week, practice 2 for this week. And then it would just give us a structure to follow, because it'd be like, imagine, you're a football fan. I don't know if you played high school.
Yeah,
I know you didn't play college football, but like, you like football. And so like you go play with your buddies in like a flag football game. Well, imagine if you were told like, okay, you're going to start playing tackle football in this adult league, and you guys have to get together and have a practice. You wouldn't know the slightest thing about what the warm-up should be like, and then which different segments that play position should go here, when you come together, when do you break off into positional coaching. We don't know what to do. So other than just watching videos and relying on our team to like go watch YouTube, or hopefully subscribe to a channel where handball's on. Everybody comes to it at various levels of experience. We need to level them off at the start of practice. At the start of practice, everybody has to get on the same level and master this skill. Then the next level and master this skill. And then I think at that point, we would be able to have like, well, he's obviously good at this position, and we've established is now good at this position, because we've seen after they've leveled off who's better at what. And then the next month you start incorporating plays, or you start incorporating defense, because we don't have a strategy other than like, let's find some former college football and basketball players and have them run out there and try to score. After 5 to 6 minutes, like you saw when we played we were done.
Yeah, and that's kind of like you brought up the tactic chain we made, and for those that are listening, we basically went from running a 6 flat to a variety of other defenses. We moved to a 5-1 and a 4-2 and even a little bit of a 3-2-1. So the Pittsburgh backcourt was unfamiliar with how to handle that, so it was very easy for us to create a lot of turnovers, and that's where having that new defensive scheme that they were not used to and understanding what needed to be done, we were able to just pick them apart. So it's just kind of a knowledge thing. And like you said, it takes time, and you got to get everybody on the same page. And I think that's something that I know I do a lot with Ohio State every year. We get a whole batch of incoming freshmen or upperclassmen that just want to start playing that are unfamiliar with the sport, and we have to basically get them caught up to speed, but also continue to improve the guys we got. So I don't know from a university standpoint, but I know with work with us, the big thing's always learn one, see one, teach one, or see one, do one, teach one. So that kind of helps solidify the whole learning process. Is that sure you have your guys go watch YouTube video, and then you have them come to practice and they do it, and then now you need them to then be the teachers to the next group of people. And I think you guys are kind of in that do one, we need somebody to be the teach one aspect, but we also need to know what to teach. So I agree that a regional ambassador thing, and I've pushed for that a little bit. So we'll see what happens. We're going to obviously, as you know, getting a new CEO hopefully soon with US Team Handball. One thing that I'll make you aware of that you might not be aware of, I'm not sure if I told you this before, but an agreement was made with XPS, which is I'm not sure if you know it from football or not, but it's a, whatever you want to call it, like a coach's tool for either video analysis or training drills, practice scheduling, things like that. So basically the intent is that we would give an account to so many coaches within our organization, and they would then be able to use that to help better inform and coordinate their players and teams. So I think that, again, having a regional person that touches base, like it would be great if USC Team Handball had somebody that could just have a split. You have these 5 teams, you have that 5 teams, but it's just Melissa and Emily, and they're swamped. So we'd have to make another subcommittee, and it's just a lot more. I'm not sure if people are interested in helping with that, but it's something that needs to be done. So yeah,
I'm glad, and I neglected to mention the colleges when you set me up for it. You talked about what you've done with Ohio State is awesome. That I think you guys are like you're like the prototype for what we want to follow. And
thank you.
Carnegie Mellon University jumps out to us because at Carnegie Mellon we have a lot of students from other countries that may have grown up with the game more so than we do at like Kane. University of Pittsburgh has so many students. I'm sure we also have plenty there. But I think that regional ambassador, that like the title you gave there, that person could be the one who, here's the schools in the region that should establish a handball club, and then when those teams, one of the carrots you can dangle in front of those athletes is when you finish playing for the University of Pittsburgh Handball Club or the West Virginia University team handball team, then there's a local team that's at the at our level, adult level afterward, like the Pittsburgh Team Handball Club, and it would be like, oh yeah, then you move on because we have a few kids who played for Pitt who now, or even your kid who played. We have some kids from Ohio State that they play for us now. That would be, I think, the job of that ambassador. I mean, Andrew has a full-time job. I have a full-time job. We have families, so it's just not something that we have the time to do. We do have the interest and the passion for it. If that were someone's job, that would be ideal. They would help to establish what it takes to be a team handball club at a school like that you started at Ohio State, for example. You could walk them through what that process is like. You get like a sophomore or junior who wants to start the club, and here's how it's done. And then we have a feeder system to Pittsburgh's team. And then when those kids get to Pittsburgh's team, they have skills and knowledge about how to run their practices, and then we can use that.
Right. That's what I have. I mean, I'm just trying to tell other people to do the same. I mean, we have Ohio State in the Armada, and now some other teams here in the Columbus area. There's a question in the chat. Mishi, our number 1 top shooter, she'd like to know what can a club like Cal Heat do to raise the level of clubs like Pittsburgh?
What can a team like Cal Heat do to raise our level?
Correct.
Help us.
Yeah.
Oh man, I tell you what, fly out one of your coaches, come to a practice and give us an itinerary. Even if it was actually, at the very least, email us an itinerary. What do you do every day at practice? Because recruitment is one thing, but if we recruit people and they come out and it's a disjointed, unorganized, looks like a pickup game, they're not going to come back. It wasn't the serious competition level they wanted. So if they came out and we have it more formalized, I think would be the incentive for people to then return. And I know you and I mentioned on that call, or at least I did on that call we had with USA Team Handball, it was earlier this year. We talked about how what if USA Team Handball had an overarching site where every club had a page on it? And so like your team had a website with a schedule and stats and a roster. And by having that, it looks like what these former college athletes are used to. So it looks more proper and formal and organized. You know, when I see and hear about Cal Heat and see what they do, it looks to me like they have an organized, you know, fashion of doing things. And we just are not able to establish that same rigmarole that you guys have. So like I said, honestly, taking a program like ours by the hand and helping us grow and at the most basic level, and here's how you structure your here's what's expected of your athletes to do before practice, after practice, training during the week, whatever it is, let us know, because then we're just right now weekend warriors.
Yeah. Well, Mishi, I'll connect it to you guys then if that's cool after this
Yeah,
call.
please.
So
Thank you.
Martin, also from Cal Heat, brought up having a coaching committee. So I'm not. It's kind of pathetic that I don't know who's on said coaching committee, but there is something that exists, but they don't obviously do a good enough job to make themselves well known. But that would be another avenue to kind of help get a kind of coaching certification process in place, which has always been a big talking point, and help legitimize the process. But one segue I want to jump on that I like where you're going with the stats side is that, you know, your background with sports and information and media, like, what do you think needs to be done from a handball stats front? You know, I think that we need to have a lot more coverage on our stats. I think that handball offers a lot of stats, and people like to see that, especially in today's world of big data. So I don't know if you think that might be an avenue for handball to help kind of legitimize itself just by having a robust stat structure.
Yeah, I don't think you can be an American sport without stats. I mean, it's, you know, think about, so I do come from an area of great experience. So I actually teach a class that is strictly about rules and stats of various games, because if I'm teaching future sports information directors and or future sports reporters, and I actually have sports marketing students in my classes too from the business school who might and know nothing about the sport. So I teach them, like, you know, what's a hat trick? It's something that's simple, but also like, here's the infield fly rule and what counts as an RBI. So if you go work for some minor league baseball team and something happens on the field and you're in charge of social media, like you're not going to put something out incorrectly and make your team look amateurish because you don't know that a sack bunt doesn't count as an at bat or something like that. So I teach classes. We go walk through every sport's stats. Handball, we don't cover that sport because it's just we would cover volleyball or cross country before we would cover handball, because what's there to know other than you score a goal? We see it every 4 years on the Olympics. But if there was like a database of stats and there's a manual and like, here's what is tabulated during a contest, and then where do I go to see those tabulations? Is it a website, you know, that for the team? Is it the league website? Then I could go there and sort, like, who's the statistical leader, and I follow that player. Yeah, you can't be legitimate, I don't think, in American sport unless we're counting. You know, it's like these games, if you don't count them and tabulate them and record them and preserve them, they disappear into the ethers, and it's like they never happened. So it's like a pickup game. It makes it seem amateurish. So what I would suggest is, anytime there's any competition, whether it's an exhibition, which would be like the game that we had, for example, between Ohio State and Pittsburgh, that needs to be at least tabulated and preserved somewhere so that your players have caps or appearances every time they represented your team in a formal way. And then he also has a running tabulation of goals, assists, fouls, cards, saves, shots on goal. And it would really just be as simple as you have a clipboard, and like they do in a lot of college volleyball scenarios that I've seen, is they give the clipboard to somebody who's not playing a lot. When that person gets in, he or she passes it to another player who just came out. And while you're on the bench, your job is to tabulate those. And you just have uniform numbers on one side and the categories, and you do tick marks. So at the very least, after the game, you can go into a spreadsheet and type those in. And then you can save it as like one game file, but then also update the season file. And then also update the career file. And you'd have this like player card that you can see what he did in 2016, what he did in 2017, and so forth. And that would, to me, legitimize it, and it would mimic what college athletes are used to seeing from their experience. And therefore they think like, oh, this is a legitimate venture to then continue to score goals, continue to run up what I'm used to. a basketball player, kid scores 2,000 points in college at like a Division II school or something, and he's like 6'6", that kid's a great candidate to play left back or pivot for someone. And now he can come score more points, if you will. You know what I mean? That's something he keeps. Then he can send people a link to his player card that shows his stats. I think that one of the things I did for Susquehanna when I got there as an SID was revamp their website completely. And so if you click on like even the field hockey roster and you click on a player, that player, it will show her career stats. Can I share my screen? Am I able to do that? And I can show you what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
So like, for example, so this is the website I built when I was at Susquehanna University, which is a Division III school in the other part of the state. Let me share this screen, my browser. Oh, you got to make me a co-host or allow me to share.
Okay.
And I'll get it up for you. But, when somebody goes to even this school, which is a very relatively, okay, thank you, I see that now. So it's a relatively small school. But when I got there, coming from a Division I experience, I was like, to me, like getting a story written about you that appears on, for me, was GoDuquesne.com. That was a big deal for these student athletes. It incentivized our performance, but it also gave us links to send to our grandparents and our aunts and uncles. And then it gave us a varsity experience that allowed us to then be good alumni and give back to the school later and to market and sell the school to other people. So I built this website to make it more varsity for them. And it's been tweaked a bit since I've been gone for 10 years. But like, for example, if I go to women's sports field hockey and I click on the roster, and mind you, it's a Division III field hockey program, nothing against Susquehanna University, but like they don't get many more than like 25, 50 sometimes fans at a game. But if you come to the website and let's click on someone who's been there a few years, like here's a junior, Cassie West, right? I clicked on her name. Here's a summary about what she's accomplished. And if I go to like career, I can see all of her stats dating back for the whole time she's been there, her sophomore year, her junior year. Here's her headshot throughout the years. So these kind of things that they require labor to do. But if you had the team president just update every game, it doesn't become a huge project. It's just one site you update after a game. And now there would be incentive to, I guess I can stop sharing. There would be incentive to do games, to stage games, because you would want to have a recap to write. You would want to have a couple photos to put with the recap. You would want to have stats to then point to and go, here's evidence about that victory we had. So when Pittsburgh Team Handball Club played University of Pittsburgh last year, and we beat them by 1 goal, and I got a broken nose during the game, the only memory I have is a more crooked nose now. I can't point to it and show like the 8 goals I scored that game. And that to me doesn't incentivize people to show up and play. So I would like to see that. I realize it becomes someone's job, but I think you could pass that buck onto the team president to like give a clipboard to a player every game. And then you have like a central repository to upload your game file, whether it's on USA Team Handball's website or a lower level regional site. I know I'm just spitballing, kind of going on and on here, but that's my perspective. That's where I come from.
I like that a lot. Maybe I'm personally biased, but I think that whole rant you just went on is exactly what our college teams need a better understanding of, and even the adult teams, is that we have this possibility to I'm trying to fix your camera because we went into a different space of moment of time there while we shared your screen. I was trying to take some notes too, is that stats are not hard. I mean, it's not a hard thing to do. Somebody has to do it. And I think having somebody on the bench that can sit there and kind of help quickly, easily. I mean, the big things from handball that I think are important would be shots on goal. And we can get, as time progresses, we can get more detailed with shots. So what phase of the attack the shot came in. Not even that. We can just go shots, goals, turnovers. I don't even think you really we don't need assists and saves. If we keep it simple to start, then we can continue to grow and get into like, well, what phase did they score in? Where on the court did they score from? Where exactly was the save on the goal? In what quadrant of the goal? Where did they score? Was it an outlet pass? Where was the outlet pass? What defense were they running? That's what a lot of the higher level coaches will get into, and they'll have clips that they can send to their players and say, hey, here's this defense running here's the other team running this defense. Here's how we're going to be able to break it. This is their player. Here's his same little move that he makes every time, and when he does go to shoot, he shoots this corner every time. Those are the kind of stats that once we have a very basic baseline, we can continue to kind of plethorate, or I don't know what I'm saying right now, grow into. So I think we're frozen again. So I apologize, folks. My internet connection is, as you all are very familiar with, low quality internet out here. So it's on my end, Bob. Don't you worry.
Got you back now. Okay. Here we go.
Cool. Yeah, I
got the gist of what you were saying. What you're talking about is like these advanced, almost sabermetric stuff where you're putting like a dot on the goal where he shot, and you can do that. Like you have quadrants and stuff. That is definitely the wave of the future, and actually even in college sports, because the software that's being used now, it's called Genius, I think is what the term is, Genius software, or NCAA Live Stats. I can't recall off the top of my head, but that is now the newest form of stat keeping. Like with soccer stats, when I've kept them before, you have a program where you just type in like shot on goal, header, corner kick. It's very rudimentary, and now it's evolved to the point where you drag a cursor and you put at what point where the ball was shot, what part of the goal it was, and everything. Basketball, where the shot was from, and then it tabulates a plus minus and thing for you too. But what we need to get better at is just the rudimentary, at least. Like even every adult baseball league keeps track of like hits and at bats and RBI and average. And now these players like have a website where they can point to their friends and family and say, here's where you can see I had the 2 RBIs last night or something. None of our players can like show off any of what they're doing with this sport because we don't keep track. There's nowhere, the game score doesn't exist anywhere. Why couldn't the game score be reported to even just an agate page, which is like a tabulation scores for like your local sports? Like your local newspaper has, game scores on the back for like local pony league games. Your handball score should be reported. You can have standings. You can send them every week. So there needs to be a place where there's a running tabulation of standings. There's, exhibition or league game. And even just so you said, the goals, anybody can see who scored that. The saves, the shots on goal, anybody can see who saved those, and that would give you some incentive, I think, to keep coming back and build your player card. Then you could also get media coverage a lot better, because when you're trying to get media coverage, this is like one of the secrets I learned through media relations is if I want media coverage, the people who double check my facts, they like, if I'm a reporter and I say, oh, this guy's our leading scorer, he scored 10 goals, and this guy, our record's 8-0. I can't print that just because you told me that. But if you send me to a website that says what you just told me, and that website has some sort of like badge or authenticity to it, and I can see other teams are using it, I can then at least write according to team website, and so like I can say who the league leader is, and I can call it a fact as a reporter. I can't do any of that unless it's somehow recorded and preserved. So you're not going to get media coverage, and no people are going to care because they can't see how many goals you scored. So I know we're getting on a tangent here, and unfortunately I got to put my little ones to bed, but I mean, I'm all for it. I'll love to give advice. I wish I could, I wish I could do more other than just show up to practice for Pittsburgh when we have it, and talk to you. But, I'm happy to have these conversations.
Yeah. Bob, I don't want to keep you because you got to put the kids to bed, but I think I really want to continue this conversation, obviously, with Joey, if we can get him on. And so maybe we have you back on sometime in the near future. But definitely some good talking points here for the future. And for any of the listeners that are tuning in, I know we got a couple guys in the Columbus market that work with ESPN at a stats levels. So they've come out to some of our games to try to help with that front. But yeah, I think just coming from someone like yourself, like when I talk to our guys at Ohio State and the guys with Columbus, they're like, oh, JD, like, what do you know? You don't know what you're talking about. It's not important stuff. But coming from someone like you that can offer how much of an impact something as simple as stats could be to the betterment and growth of what we're trying to all strive towards, carry some weight. So that's thank you for speaking out on that. It'll be help my case down the road here, I think.
Yeah, send them this video. Yeah, give me the recording too. I'm going to share this, for sure when we're done.
I'll always put it on YouTube, and then audio files go to Spotify, Google Podcasts, and everywhere but Apple Podcasts. So cool. All right. Well, if anybody's got any other questions, feel free to reach out to Bob. I'll share a little my transition screen here so you can see. It's got his social media there at Bluff Talk. He's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can find him pretty much everywhere. He's pretty responsive. So very nice guy. Bob, is that okay if people reach out to you?
Yeah, I'd love to if I can help in any way, especially if we're looking for more people to come to practice when we can get going again. COVID will end eventually. It will. So we're going to practice again. I'm looking forward to it. And we need younger guys. I need to be able to pass on a little bit more of this. I'm not going to play forever. So I would love to get you out there.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, Bob, thanks for coming on today. And it was great having you.
Awesome, man.
Cool. All right, everybody.
Likewise, bud.
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
Take care.
Good. All right. Thanks, Bob. As usual, everybody, keep shooting, shooters. All right. I'll show them my your stuff one more time here, and then give me 30 seconds, Bob, as I close out our show here. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and